Hey, what's good, fam? It's Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com coming to you from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I appreciate you guys joining me on the show tonight. Lot to go over as Alabama enters their Week 2 matchup against Texas A&M. I want to take your calls, 205-850-0883. Update your phone book. Please call into the show. I'd love to get your calls. Want to get your take on, this game against Missouri and this game upcoming against Texas A&M. I think just listening to Nick Saban's press conference, which you can listen to in its entirety or watch back at Bama Insider on our YouTube channel or back at BamaInsider.com. I think the clear message was that Alabama needs to improve going into the season, and rightfully so. I think even though Alabama, surprisingly, what was it, like a 17-point favorite going in this weekend's game at Bryant-Denny Stadium, Alabama versus Texas A&M, I think it's going to be a great matchup. I mean, as you can see, Texas A&M ranked 13th in both the AP and coaches poll. Alabama ranked number 2 in the country. So, it's a great matchup. And I think when you look at the rest of this, kind of these next couple of games, I mean, the easy one is out of the way. And as you know, it wasn't that easy against Missouri. I think Missouri, brought a lot of defense. They were a much better team on defense than I thought they were going to be. I knew their offense was probably going to struggle. But I thought their defense was great. And so I want to take your calls. 205-850-0883 is the call-in line number. When you look at Alabama's schedule, you're going to have, the next few coaches are all former assistants of Nick Saban, right? I mean, you look at Texas A&M, you got Jimbo Fisher. Then you got Ole Miss, it's Lane Kiffin. Then you got the big one against Georgia. Then you got Tennessee, that's Jeremy Pruitt. And then you go against, on Halloween, you go against Mike Leach. And everybody saw Mississippi State and how good they were in that opener against LSU. Very productive passing the football, obviously. And then you look at LSU, Kentucky, Auburn, and then Arkansas. So, this 10-game stretch of the SEC, I think is going to be a gauntlet. I'm excited to see how Alabama does improve going into this second week in a pivotal matchup. I think there's a lot at stake clearly going into this game. So let's look at that scoring summary while we wait for our first call right here on BamaInsider.com. We'll look at that scoring summary against Alabama and Missouri. And as you know, things got off to a great start with Alabama early on in that game, 14-0. Alabama actually jumped up, 28-3. You had a 1-yard touchdown run by Najee Harris to make it 7-0. Then you had Jalen Waddle with an 18-yard touchdown pass. I mean, how great did he look on the night, right? Mac Jones with some great ball placement, and Alabama was up 14-0. Then you had Najee Harris punching it in from 1 yard out. And I think, when you get inside the red zone, you get 5 yards out, I think the right thing to do is clearly put the football in the hands of Najee Harris. Then to make it 21-3, Missouri hits a field goal, and then Jalen Waddle catches another touchdown pass to make it 28-3. I thought the first half was really what we expected it to be. I think when you look at the overall stats from this game, Alabama clearly had overall control in this game. And, when we kind of look to that second half, and we can kind of go to the next series of stats on the page. The second half was peculiar. And I did, I watched the game. I rewatched that second half of the game just to kind of, figure out what went into that second half. I want to get your take on that second half and where you feel Alabama needs to improve, because I think people say that it was, the second team. Well, I'm telling you, the first team played the majority of that game. Yeah, Nick Saban swapped a couple of the offensive linemen, but for the most part, it was the starters in this game against Missouri. And I think you're going to have your starters going against every single team from here on out. I mean, Missouri was supposed to be kind of that easy team on the opener, right? So as you have the overall stats, Najee Harris, 17 rushes, 100 yards with 3 touchdowns in the game, right? The campaign has started. Brian Robinson, 4 rushes, 18 yards. And then you had, surprisingly, Trey Sanders with 9 attempts and a net of 1 yard, right? Like, what is going on? So I think part of it was clearly the offensive line. Part of it was Trey Sanders. I don't think, when I was watching that second half, clearly he didn't hit the hole as hard as he was supposed to, right? And I think that's something that he's going to need to improve on. Overall passing wise, as you can see on the stats on the screen, I mean, Mac Jones was money, 18-24, 249 yards with 2 touchdowns. And then Bryce Young came in. We got our first chance to see Bryce Young, 5 of 8, 54 yards. What'd you think of Bryce Young? Sound off in the comment box. I'd love to get your take on, the freshman out of California who came in. I thought he did some great things. Yeah, people are going to talk about the fumble. But overall, I think he did a really good job, from, getting in against a really good defensive team. I thought he made some quick decisions, got the ball out to his receivers when he needed to, and fit the ball into some tight windows. Jalen Waddle, 8 receptions, 134 yards, and Devontae Smith, 8 receptions, 89 yards. I think overall, it'll be interesting to see how this team improves. But we got Edward on the line. He wants to talk about Christian Barmore and William Anderson. We're going to take the call. Edward, what's up, buddy? Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for taking my call, Kyle. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the defense. For example, like in the Missouri game, I think we really, really missed Christian Barmore not being in there because, for example, Will Anderson was the main one that was getting the pressure on the quarterback and being disruptive. But I feel like with Barmore in there, if he's healthy, it gives us 2 effective pass rushers in there because when you only have 1 effective pass rusher that can get after the quarterback, it obviously makes it a lot easier for the offense. And I feel like LeBron Ray and DJ Dale, they're good defensive linemen, but the same thing last year. I felt like they didn't get pressure on the quarterback. So I was just wondering your input on that as well, if you noticed the same thing.
Yeah. First of all, thank you very much for the call, and everybody hit that thumbs up button. We really appreciate it. All super chats and all tips certainly welcomed on the call-in show tonight. And we appreciate everyone being here. Please hit the thumbs up button. Most importantly, subscribe to the show. I think when you look at Alabama's pass rush overall, I liked what I saw, to be honest. I think William Anderson crashing off the edge was really unbelievable. I think as we talked about during our watch party and during our post-game show, I mean, I can't remember the last time I saw a freshman that effective in pass rush. I can't remember the last time I saw a freshman playing that explosive. I mean, just as we thought, it was, he was just incredible right out of the gates. And I thought Christian Harris did a great job on defense as well. Those two, to think about a freshman and a sophomore, I mean, talk about one of the top tandems in the country. And these guys are so young, right? It's really amazing to see. I think LeBron Ray, I saw some get up from him. I don't think, we saw, we didn't see Christian Barmore yet, but just hearing Saban just a while ago, he's been at practice all week. So I think he's probable for this coming matchup against Texas A&M, but I think he could be that missing link and someone from the defensive line that could get after the quarterback. I'm not concerned right now about the pass rush. I want to see more of a sample size, but I think overall, I really like the way Alabama's defense played. That front seven, I thought, did a really good job, and it's just so much of a I think positive just to see Dylan Moses out there, because Dylan Moses, I mean, he's that anchor. Like we talked about it during the entire, fall training camp, and to see him, it was really impressive. You could tell everybody was more comfortable with Dylan Moses out there.
Yeah, no, he played awesome, and him and Harris had some great chemistry. And another question I have for you is, it seems to me like Phidarian Mathis, it seems like he's got some great ability and great talent. I think he could be disruptive if he saw more playing time as well. I mean, what's your thought on that as well?
Yeah,
he's got some pretty good size on him.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Phidarian Mathis. He's a guy who has a lot of experience. So I think mixing and matching that defensive line, I think you have a lot of depth. And you have Justin Ebogbe, who I thought played really well. I thought Phil Mathis, just as you said, when he gets in, he's able to, plug up holes. He can also chase down quarterbacks or stuff up anything in the backfield. And then you have LeBron Ray. So overall, I think, the defensive line is where it needs to be. I'm not worried about the depth at all right now. I think that's one area that Alabama has several different options. There's a couple areas on the field that I do see a little depth problems early on in the season, but I guess, we'll have to see how things go. But I appreciate it very much, Edward. Thank you very much for calling in. Please call again next time. It's always great to hear from you. You definitely have one of the best connections when you call in. So thank you very much. We appreciate it.
All right. Awesome. You have a great evening. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I believe Edward's out in Cali. We're going to now take our next call from DeMarco in the ATL. Wants to talk about the next man up. DeMarco, what's up, man?
What's going on, Kyle? I'm back at you again. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. So I have to tell you guys ready for a quick story? Because I went and played in a charity golf tournament in Atlanta. And the reason I bring it up is because DeMarco's from Atlanta, right? I told you it was one of my favorite cities. So I went and played in a charity golf tournament. So I entered the putting competition. Okay. And I mean, I'm not the best putter. Who is? Raise your hand. Okay. Yeah. I see nobody's raising their hand. So the caveat is I have to hit this 30-yard, this 30-foot putt, but they give me, you have to do it with a hockey stick. Okay. So I'm like, this is like Happy Gilmore. I kid you not. Guess who brought home the $100 from the putting champ? Yes, me. So it was pretty hilarious to see, kidding with the hockey puck. But that was my short story on the weekend charity event in Atlanta. But DeMarco, you're on the line, man. Take it away.
I'll tell you what, man. I'm gonna probably have another conversation with Tyler. I'll make sure to leave him some good information on me and how to connect. So next time you're in Atlanta, I'll definitely try to make an appearance with you and pick your brain a little bit, especially because I'm in college and we get a lot of projects with interviewing different people. So that'll be a fun thing. But so this was going to be a little bit of a long-winded one here, but I'll try to make it quick. So we talk about next man up, and especially with COVID, with injuries, and you've seen how those things have plagued teams all across the country, especially in NFL. What, in your opinion, is the most, I would just say, critical position for Alabama? Should there have to be a next man up at that position that could be critical and that will have a ultimate impact on how we finish the season? Given a lot of people look at Alabama as a number 3 or even as low as a number 4 team in the country behind a Ohio State and a Clemson. So just kind of what position do you think we really don't want to have to go to next man up? But if we do, how do you think we'll do at that position?
I mean, I think the clear, the elephant in the room might be the quarterback position, right? I mean, the way that Mac Jones played and the way that Bryce Young played, and I would never throw shade at Bryce Young. I think he's clearly going to be the next guy and a guy who can lead this team. And if he has to do it, he's going to do it. He's going to be effective. But I mean, these guys are playing in an all SEC schedule, and the defenses are going to get more complex. The defenses are going to be just as good, if not better, than Missouri's defense, who, by the way, was fantastic. I mean, the Gillespie kid, my goodness. I mean, that was definitely, in my opinion, one of the best defensive players on the entire field. So, I mean, you look at the spectrum, I mean, especially early on with that big one against Georgia, you got to have everyone healthy. And, can a freshman really come off the bench in that critical situation and win? And people are going to be like, yeah, he did. Guess what? It was Tua Tagovailoa. So, yeah, a freshman came in and beat the top tier competition. And but I think early on, he's going to need more playing time. You're going to have to get Bryce Young accustomed to college, and he's going to be ready. I mean, we saw what he did clearly against Missouri in a small sample size. I thought he made some great throws and some tight windows. I thought he showed that quick twitch and was able to get upfield. And I thought, the fumble, hey, it's going to happen. It's going to happen to Mac Jones. It's going to happen to Najee Harris. It's just a matter of time. I mean, it's not something that you want in your debut, but you got to be able to move past that. By the way, Bombs, thank you very much for the super chat. We always appreciate it. So I think overall, I really liked what I saw from him. I was pleasantly surprised, but I think just from a schematics standpoint early on, you don't want to lose your quarterback. I think also, I mean, here's my question for you, DeMarco. I mean, could the other position be the running back position? Because, I mean, there was a big, big difference from Najee Harris compared to Brian Robinson and Trey Sanders.
Yeah. To your first point about Bryce Young, first of all, people forget Tua had a lot of mop-up duty opportunities where Alabama was up 20 points or so, and he was able to come in and get valuable reps all throughout that season before he was thrown into that UGA game. People forget that. Mm-hmm. So Bryce hasn't had that opportunity. Granted, he came in a little bit more highly touted than Tua, maybe. And the numbers might say that over a 2.47. But so that's one thing to keep in mind. And then at the running back position, and I think it boils down to what you said and kind of some of the things I was putting in the chat after the game was that we saw such a big drop-off in the production up front from that first half or maybe that first combination of guys to the second and the second group of guys in the second half that it's hard to really, quantify what was really the issue there. Was it Trey Sanders? Because this was a guy we heard a lot about in the offseason. This was a guy that we heard was ripping it up. I mean, was going crazy, prior to the season. So, and I think Coach Saban talked about that. How do we, keep our mental focus for 4 quarters and our intensity high? But I think that running back position is a challenge. But I'll tell you the biggest group that I don't think we can afford to take a hit at. I think it's the cornerback position. I don't think in the secondary we are at a point where I don't want to see us lose anyone from that group. It's already a young group of guys who are just gaining some confidence. they had to do a lot with Missouri moving around, a lot of motion. So I don't want to see that group take a hit. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think that's a great observation right there. And I appreciate, again, the dialogue. I mean, it's always great to rap with you, DeMarco. I think when you look at the secondary position, I mean, you have Josh Jobe, who, by the way, was the highest graded defensive player in that game, surprisingly, because you had a lot of guys who balled out. I thought Christian Harris was way up there. That was kind of my defensive MVP along with William Anderson. Patrick Surtain, I mean, and you kind of look, at the guys behind those guys, they haven't been tested at all. And just like you said, I mean, if those two guys go out, I mean, it's a gauntlet of a season. There's some very talented wide receivers across college football, especially in the SEC. So I guess we'll just have to see. And kind of behind those guys, you have, the Marcus Banks, the Brandon Turnage, guys that, obviously they're good, but they're just untested. So good observations overall. And there's the Pro Football Focus grade outs right there. But we're going to run to our next call. DeMarco, thank you very much for calling. Please call again. It's always great to have good dialogue. I'll definitely, hit me up, Kyle at BamaInsider.com. You can connect to me, and I'm definitely all about helping the students and all about mentorship. So definitely connect with me, okay?
Absolutely. Sounds perfect.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, now.
All right, next caller on the line. We got Daniel from Alabama, wants to talk about the quarterbacks.
Hey, man, how are you doing?
What's up, Daniel? Thank you very much for calling in. I hope you had a great week. I hope you enjoyed college football. And now it's finally time to talk about, Alabama. And they finally played a game. It's pretty amazing. But you're on. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I was excited, but you know what? This year just didn't feel the same as it did last year with hardly anybody in the stands. But still, it was a great game. But my question is, you talked about it with your last caller. I was going to talk to you about our quarterback situations. Get your thoughts on how well Mac Jones done, which I thought he was lights out in the first half. Second half, I thought we could have done a little better, but when Bryce Young came in, I thought he looked great. But I was wondering, do you think he'll get more reps this year, or like your last caller said, mop up duties?
Well, thank you very much, Daniel. I really appreciate you calling in and talking about the quarterbacks. I think when you look at let's start with Mac Jones first. I thought he played fantastic. I mean, there are the stats on the screen: 18 to 24, 249 yards with 2 touchdowns. He was held up. I thought the offensive line played fantastic. The offensive tackles, I know each of them had a penalty, but besides that, I think they did a great job. Clearly, Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith are the key targets with 16 combined receptions. Jalen Waddle completely balled out. But Mac Jones came, and I think he exuded confidence. I think he had great ball placement, and I think he just did an overall great job of leading the offense. And I didn't expect anything less. I mean, you look at this guy, and I mean, what he did, was display that confidence as an upperclassman. And then you have Bryce Young, who came in. And as we talked about earlier, I mean, this is a guy who clearly can get it done, who's clearly ready to play, showed some early signs of what he can do. And I think a lot of people are excited. I mean, I'm excited to see him. I mean, we didn't get a springtime to see any of these guys. And now to see these freshmen in action is great. I think, it's not going to be all mop-up duty for Bryce Young. I mean, it can't be. I mean, he has to get, accustomed to going against top defenses every single week. So it's not going to be one of those things, wait till Alabama gets up. I mean, he's going to play. He's going to play more and more as the season goes on. He's going to play against Texas A&M. You got to get him ready. You got to get him acclimated. I think he's going to do just fine. I think there's going to be learning points for all these guys. But I think, he's going to be very successful. And I think we saw an early splash of what he could do against Missouri. And I'm really excited about what he brings to the table overall.
Yeah, me too. My fiance came over and we was watching the game together. And we was talking about Bryce Young, if Nick Saban was going to bring him in or not. And when I saw him on the field, I was like, all right, let's see what he can do. But, I was proud of how Mac Jones done. I was absolutely proud of our offense and how they were doing. Our defense, boy, it's great to see Dylan Moses back on the field. But Christian Harris, it seems like he was all over the field.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point. I mean, Christian Harris was just really unbelievable. I mean, you look at the overall defensive stats, and they really don't even tell the true story of what we all saw. I mean, Christian Harris, my goodness. I mean, the confidence level and the speed factor. I think what really stands out when you look at the defense was the speed factor that William Anderson and Christian Harris played with, right? Like those guys were running to the football. It seemed like 200 miles an hour. Daniel Wright led the team with 11 tackles, and a lot of people were critical after the game. I want to get people's take on his play. They felt he needed to wrap up, do a better job, be more physical. He did have 11 tackles, surprisingly. Josh Jobe, as we talked about, was the highest graded player on the defensive side of the ball. I thought Jordan Battle played great. Check out his video on our YouTube channel. Very polished young man. And then Christian Harris with 6 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss. And William Anderson, I mean, doesn't have the most tackles, but it seems like he was definitely on the field most of the time and just making great plays. So really liked what I saw from the defense. And I mean, like you said, Christian Harris playing so fast. And I think what happens is you have Dylan Moses with all that confidence, making all the calls, and all Christian Harris has to do is just go play his game. So that's a great tandem across the middle of the field. Really like those guys at inside linebacker. Anything else, Daniel, while we got you on the line?
Yeah, one more question. It's Bear Bryant's great grandson, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is he gonna? You think he will play some, or you think he will probably transfer?
I think when you look at a player like Paul Tyson, I mean, I really like Paul Tyson. I like all these guys in the room. I think the thing that he brings to the table is his big arm, 6'5", 230 pounds. You're going to get him in. I think, quarterback depth is of the utmost importance, right? You look at the fact, let's just look at the quarterback room right now. So you have Mac Jones, redshirt junior. People think he's a senior. He's already graduated, but remember, this is a blanket year, meaning every single guy on the roster could come back. So theoretically, Mac Jones could play this year, play next year, and the year after if he wanted to. That's 3 more seasons, which is crazy, right, to think about. He's not going to do that, especially if he continues to play like he's doing this year. He'd be playing in the NFL next year. But you have then you have Bryce Young and you have Paul Tyson. You need quarterbacks on this team. Then you have Jalen Milroe, who's the quarterback commit. So you're going to need some time to acclimate him. So, yeah, I think he's going to play. He's the 3rd guy on the team. He's very good. He's coming along. I think if he gets an opportunity, he's going to lead the offense. Now, he's not going to dazzle you like Bryce Young. He's not going to elude defenders. But I think in leading the offense, without question, he can get the job done. I think his ability to get the football to receivers, we haven't seen that yet just because, he hasn't played yet. But everything that we gather, I think he's going to be just fine. So I don't see him just completely taking off if he doesn't get a lot of playing time this year. Remember, this is a blanket year for all these guys. So it's really an extra redshirt year. So I can't even imagine how he's going to progress during midseason. And then, when he does come back, the following year. That's a very experienced quarterback. But we're going to run, Daniel. But thank you very much for the dialogue. We really appreciate you calling in.
All right. Thank you, Kyle. You have a wonderful day.
All right. You too, buddy.
Bye.
All right. Call line is open. Number at the bottom of the screen, 205-850-0883. Call line is open. Take your calls and, kind of dive into this next game as Alabama, sets their sights on their home opener. We'll get a chance to see the new tunnel at Bryant-Denny. That'll be tomorrow. We'll have that video for you right here on our YouTube channel and, of course, on BamaInsider. What are your biggest questions kind of going into this game? Kind of just, you're facing Jimbo Fisher. I think there's a lot of storylines going in this game, and to see how these guys could do. And I think we're going to take our next call here in a second. So just want to make sure I'm still connected. I think I might have got locked out, but I think there's a lot of storylines when we look at this game. Nick Saban versus Jimbo Fisher, and as we talked about, all these former assistants are now playing Nick Saban, and going to be interesting to see if Nick Saban can continue to be undefeated against his assistant. What are those stats? Can somebody look them up? Is it like 17-0 against former assistants, right? But I'll tell you what, kind of when we, all right, we got disconnected real quick. Let me see if I can take Gary. Hey, Gary, are you there? Gary? All right, we're gonna take a quick break. Come right back, and then we'll have Gary on the line. So I'm gonna take a quick commercial break, and I'll be right back to you right here on BamaInsider. Alabama Crimson Tide football fans, what's going on? It's Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com. First, I want to thank you for listening to the BamaInsider.com tailgate show. And secondly, I want to invite you to the post-game call-in show immediately following Alabama in Missouri. Mick Gillespie and myself, Kyle Henderson, will be taking your calls and providing instant analysis from what we learned following Alabama in Missouri. Which freshmen stood out? Top performers, things you need to know following Alabama in Missouri. Please join us for the post-game call-in show right here on BamaInsider.com with Kyle Henderson. Hope to see you soon. Alabama Crimson Tide football fans, what's going on? It's Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com. First, I want to thank you for listening to the BamaInsider.com tailgate show. And secondly, I want to invite you to the post-game call-in show immediately following Alabama in Missouri. Mick Gillespie and myself, Kyle Henderson, will be taking your calls and providing instant analysis from what we learned following Alabama in Missouri. Which freshmen stood out? Top performers, things you need to know following Alabama in Missouri. Please join us for the post-game call-in show right here on BamaInsider.com with Kyle Henderson. Hope to see you soon. All right, we're back on. Sorry about that. I think we're going to take our next caller. Gary, what's going on, buddy? Appreciate it. Thanks for waiting.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good, man.
Hey,
Thank
no
you very much
problem,
for
man.
waiting on the line. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, no, I was really talking about the pass. I watched the game against Missouri. Man, the passing game was great. I think this year it just seems like that. I mean, despite the COVID going on, the passing game and the offense seemed like they was working on all cylinders, man. And the quarterback he did great. The receiving game, Jalen Waddles, man, he really just showed out, man. And I'm expecting so many big things for him this year, this season, man. It just seems like nobody can hold him, man. You know, I'm just wondering what you think about the passing game and the receivers.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for calling, Gary. I really appreciate it. Got love for the Lone Star State, of course, and so do you. Obviously, talking about Jalen Waddle, right, out of that Houston area. I mean, what Jalen
Right.
Waddle did. I mean, people are talking about Najee Harris, and we, our staff is having a fun debate. Whose campaign is it? Is it Najee Harris's or is it Jalen Waddle? I mean, you look at what Jalen Waddle did in this opener. I mean, it was really amazing. I think that he put on a show. I mean, his stats speak for itself. I think his work ethic speaks for itself. He's clearly the most dangerous wide receiver in college football, in my opinion. I think he's a problem. I think he needs the football, 5-6 more times than what he had against that game. I think he's just a touchdown waiting to happen almost. He's got that it factor that, brings to the table. And I got a lot of love for Devontae Smith, but I think that, it's really incredible to see Jalen Waddle. I mean, what he did with 8 receptions, 134 yards, and really should have had, 3 touchdowns. But let's not forget about Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones did a great job getting the football to him. I think it was a great game plan from Steve Sarkisian, and Mac Jones, really displayed, a lot of, effectiveness getting the football out to his wide receivers. I mean, he was great. I think that he really did a fantastic job overall. And that's quite a connection for sure. Mac Jones and Jalen Waddle. I mean, certainly off to a really big start in week 1.
Yeah. And I think that they have a great chemistry together. They've been working out since last season or the season before that. Well, since what? Yeah, about 3 seasons, third season now. And it just seems as though that as I was watching Jalen Waddles, like you said, his work ethic is outstanding, man. I've YouTubed him, man. I remember when he was here in Houston and looking at his training, and I just see how committed he is to the team and to the program and to his conditioning, and it shows on the field. And Mac Jones, he was flawless, man. He was great, and it seems like he's just an humble individual. All of them. It just seems like they're just playing with a lot of fun this season. You know, nobody's uptight. Everybody's just doing their job, man. You know, and like I say, I think Alabama. I expect them to win a national championship this year. I just think that as long as the season go on, I believe that the defense is going to continue to gel together, and the offense going to gel, and I just think it's going to be a great season, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, I mean, this team clearly has enough talent on offensive side of the ball to win a national championship. I mean, like Mac Jones said earlier this season, I mean, the team that wins, the gauntlet of this year in the SEC and then has a chance to win the national title, that could theoretically be the greatest team ever. I mean, who's had to grind through this type of a schedule, then play a SEC championship, then a college football playoff game, then the championship. I mean, that's 13 high quality games back to back to back, right? So whoever, if Alabama is that team, wow, credit to them. I think there's some glaring holes early on in this team. I definitely think that this team is the favorite, but I do think if they don't tighten up, they are, they could lose. I think it's a very tough schedule. I think the defense needs to continue to show that they have the depth to win. In a very difficult schedule. I think some of the twos need to step up. I think the offensive line needs to show that they have more than just the starters. I'm curious to get everyone's take on Kendall Randolph and Chris Owens when they got in. This is a season about depth. This is a season about quality depth and how these guys can go when the twos get in, because like we continue to say, it's a gauntlet of the season. What else you got, Gary?
Well, that's basically it, man. I just really, like I said, I enjoy your program, man. I thank you for your time, and I thank you for taking my call. And roll, Tide, roll, man.
Yeah, roll Tide to you, buddy. Man. Thank you very much. Stay safe and have a blessed rest of your week. We'll catch up with you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Take it easy, buddy. All right. That was Gary from Texas. We appreciate the call. I mean, it's going to be tough. I mean, you look at Alabama's overall schedule. It's tough. I mean, look, these next games, remember last season when we were all watching these games and you'd be like week 2, week 4, Colorado State, someone else, Southern Miss, and you're like, yawn. Look at that schedule. Which game are you yawning on? I know that second half, yeah, that was weird. But I mean, you look at these next couple of games, Texas A&M, got to get up for it. Ole Miss, got to get up. It's Lane Kiffin. What's he going to bring to the table? Georgia. I mean, that's the game. I mean, we all have circled for such a long time. I can't believe Georgia's coming to Bryant-Denny. And you got Tennessee. I mean, improved Tennessee team. They beat South Carolina, covered the spread. How about this one? Mississippi State. Mike Leach. That's a tough one. Quarterback did well. Effective quarterback for sure. So, I don't know. Then you have that bye week, and then you have LSU. I mean, a beatable LSU team, clearly. But yeah, call line is open, 205. All right. I think we're close to getting a new caller. So call line is open, 205-850-0883 is the call line number. Kyle Henderson, BamaInsider.com. Please hit the thumbs up button. We appreciate you guys being here. Most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you never miss Alabama Crimson Tide football coverage. We got an action-packed slate the rest of the way. We got the tailgate show with Mick Gillespie. That's going to be on Friday. And then we have on Saturday, we have, our watch party. I hope you guys had fun. We're just celebrating the football season with you. And then, of course, the post-game show. So much content coming your way right here on Bama Insider. If you're new to the channel, my name is Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com. You can get free 30 days on Bama Insider. And everyone, update your phone book. The call-in line number is 205-850-0883 is the call-in line number. Next, we are going to take our next caller. Aaron from Tennessee wants to talk about the Texas A&M game and Christian Barmore. Aaron, you're on the line, buddy. What's up?
Hey,
Thanks for calling in.
Hey, I was just wanting to get your take on the Texas A&M game. How do you think, Najee will then, and how Mac Jones and Waddle, all of them.
Yeah, I mean, the way that Najee Harris started, my goodness. I mean, he's talk about the campaign, right? I mean, he was, I think he was highly effective, clearly, in what he did. I think it was everything that I expected to see from Najee Harris, except he had more power, in my opinion. So I think you definitely got to feed him. Now, if Alabama has to go ground heavy, they certainly can, and they can lean on Najee Harris to be one of those Alabama teams from the past, right? Just feed him the football as many times as possible, and I think he can do his job. I think he can carry Alabama, clearly. I thought, like we talked about earlier, we keep on talking about Mac Jones and the effectiveness that he had. That was pure leadership. The ball placement was outstanding. And then I was just talking with Gary from Texas. I mean, Jalen Waddle, my goodness. I mean, I was telling everybody beforehand, I mean, you guys, I hope somebody got in on the Heisman when he was like 100-1. I mean, hook your boy up with a super chat or a tip if you got that one. I think that it's clear that he's the most dynamic player in all of college football.
Yeah, I think Alabama will grow as a team on defense, offense. I think our leaders, Mac Jones, Najee, Waddle, and all of them will grow. But like the Texas A&M game, like, so Kyle Allen, or is that their quarterback's name?
Kellen Mond.
Kellen Mond. Yeah, he's been there for a while. He's a junior, senior now, but I think if I don't know about Barmore, I don't know if he's healthy or not, but I'm sure hoping he is. I just think if we can really put pressure on Mond, then I think he'll have a hard day. You think?
Yeah, I mean, I got a great graphic. A lot of people forget about this, and I know that you kind of look at the Texas A&M versus Vanderbilt score, and 17-12. It was 7-5 for a little while. A lot of us were confused on what was going on in that game. But look in the past. I mean, Kellen Mond has been a problem for Alabama. In 2019, Mond had 262 yards passing and 90 yards rushing against Alabama's defense. And then in 2018, he was also effective. I mean, 196 yards passing with 98 yards rushing. I mean, this is a guy who has accounted for a lot of yards against Alabama. So I think it presents an opportunity for Alabama's defense to show that they have improved, to show that they have a game plan to stop this quarterback. Because I think when you look down the road, I mean, there's going to be highly effective quarterbacks better than Kellen Mond. Kellen Mond didn't get off to the best start. I think we have the graphics between, there we go, of Texas A&M and Vanderbilt. And look at right here, Kellen Mond, 17 of 28, 189 yards passing with one touchdown. He fumbled the football 3 times or something like that. It was kind of a weird game. They got a really good running back, Spiller, who ran for, I think, 117 yards. Yeah, there it is on the screen. So, yeah, Kellen Mond, certainly the guy that I've been talking about, but I think Jimbo Fisher, he's going to have a game plan. I think that he has to beat Alabama clearly in some point of his career. I know he's got that gigantic contract, but he has to beat Nick Saban. I mean, that would certainly save his job. That would save anybody's job, right? No former assistant has beat Nick Saban. Will Jimbo Fisher be the first? I doubt it. I just don't see A&M with enough weapons to come into Bryant-Denny and outduel Alabama.
Yeah, especially if, I know there's no fans right now, but at Alabama, I think it's a lot more comfortable for the players, right? And Kyle Allen, he's the past few years, watching, he's been a threat to the Alabama defense with their legs. And I think if Bama can shut him down running and our defense can improve, that can really make a statement towards other SEC teams. And I know it's early, but maybe the College Football Playoff Committee.
Yeah, I mean, it's you got to have the defense tightened up. I mean, Christian Harris looked like a missile. William Anderson, beast. Dylan Moses did a great job. I like Jordan Battle's play in the secondary. Josh Jobe clearly did his thing. And if Christian Barmore can get going, and if he plays this week, I think that's going to just be another added element of this team. We got to run to the next call, man. But thank you so much for joining us, Aaron. I really appreciate it. Have a blessed rest of your week, and we'll catch you this weekend.
And roll tide.
All right, roll tide to you. All right. Next on line, we got Jeff from Tennessee. Jeff, what's up, buddy? Thank you very much for joining us tonight. I appreciate it.
Yeah, enjoy the show. And, ever since they started recruiting Bryce Young, I ain't heard hardly anything about Paul Tyson. I thought he was going to be the backup for Mac this year. Have you heard anything about him?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you very much for calling in. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who's calling in tonight. Calling line is 205-850-0883. Tyler Waldrop behind the screens. He's your producer. He'll answer your call when you call in and then patch you guys over to me. I think when you look at the quarterback position, you got a 5-star in Bryce Young. And that's clearly the guy that Alabama wants to be the quarterback. Now, you have Mac Jones, and then at the 3 spot, you have Paul Tyson. So those are your guys. And I think what's going to happen right now is you're going to see a passing of the torch from Mac Jones to Bryce Young as we get going. Now, what's going to happen with Paul Tyson? A lot of people will keep asking, what about Paul Tyson? When are we going to get to see Paul Tyson? It seems like every time we get to see one quarterback, everybody wants to see the next, right? And rightfully so. I mean, it's the most coveted position in all of college football. I think, like I was saying earlier in the game plan, the game plan for Alabama is going to be, continue to develop Paul Tyson, continue to, get him reps when you can get him reps. I think Alabama's, knows that Bryce Young can have that extra element if Mac Jones is to go out. And I think Paul Tyson, he's going to come in when he does come in and play with almost a chip on his shoulder. But I think he can just get the job done. I think he's known the system. I hear really great things about him. He's got that big arm. So I think he just needs an opportunity. I don't see this, being like, if he doesn't get on the field, he's completely out of here. All college quarterbacks want to play. And I think in the larger spectrum, if Mac Jones has a season that we expect him to, he's going to leave. And then you're going to have Bryce Young as number 1 and then Paul Tyson as number 2. And those guys are going to get on the field. I mean, clearly Alabama wants Bryce as their guy, but I wouldn't, clearly throw out Paul Tyson because I think he's going to get an opportunity. When is that going to be? I have no idea. But from everything that we gather, he's coming along and making good strides. Remember, this is a guy who was here last year as a freshman. Now, as a redshirt freshman, this is his blanket year. So Paul Tyson has plenty of time to play here at Alabama.
Yeah, well, I'd rather see the passing quarterbacks and the dual threats because the dual threats seem to take off running too early, whereas these pure passers, man, let the running back run the ball. We got running backs for that. And speaking of running backs, what happened to the little back Robinson?
A lot of people,
fast guy.
Yeah. That's Kellen Robinson. So to kind of give you the update on Robinson is we don't know like the exact update because Alabama does not release information if a player has opted out or has COVID. There's privacy laws, obviously. So we kind of just turn that back to Nick Saban. And unless Nick Saban gives an update or the player comes out and has said they have opted out or whatever, then, that's really all we know. So I would say that, he's probably still on the roster somewhere. I mean, he's still listed on Alabama's roster, and maybe we'll see him later on in the season. Maybe we'll see him next year, but I do know that he's not in the NCAA transfer portal. So I think if you kind of piece everything together, you can kind of figure out what's going on. But you got that running back room right now with Brian Robinson and Trey Sanders. And I want to see another dose of Trey Sanders, see what he can do in game 2. I know a lot of people were critical of his game. I was too, 9 rushes, 1 yard. I mean, you got to get something going. And I went back and watched that second half of the game. He didn't hit the hole hard. That was it. I mean, you look at how these running backs are supposed to hit the hole hard. I thought Brian Robinson did. The biggest criticism on Robinson was he dropped that touchdown pass. That was right to him. But Najee Harris, watch how Najee Harris hits the hole. I mean, it's all power. So that's how you got to enter, as a running back. So he's going to get more opportunities. And you saw right as Bryce Young went in, they paired Trey Sanders right next to him. That was the first running back. So those are the next guys coming along. And it's just a matter of time until we see more of Trey Sanders, I would assume.
Man, appreciate it. Enjoy the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you calling in. All right, Jeff from Tennessee. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Everyone, please update your phone book, 205-850-0883. Appreciate all the super chats. I'll go to the host tonight, Kyle Henderson. So thank you very much. Super chat, basically like a tip. If you don't know what it is, they help us. I mean, I put on, got to feed the staff, obviously, right? So that hit the $sign right there, chip in. So anything helps. Thank you very much on our show. We got a big weekend planned. We got, the tailgate show with Mick Gillespie. That was fun on Friday. So we'll have, kind of the schedule is got Tuesday with Andrew Bone. And then you got Wednesday, we'll talk team. And then on Friday, we got the tailgate show. Saturday, the watch party and the post-game show. And then Monday, you got the quarterback, Monday night quarterback with the staff right here at BamaInsider. So trying to give you the content that you need to get you ready for the football season. And also our podcast is available on Apple Podcasts. So pull out that iPhone and search for the Bama Insider Podcast, and you can listen to all these shows on our podcast. So call line is open. 205-850-0883 is the call line number. Be happy to take your calls. I'll be around for a little while. Appreciate you guys joining us tonight. If you guys are new to the site, hit the subscription button. It really helps our channel get out to other Alabama Crimson Tide football fans. Also hit that thumbs up button. We really appreciate it. And, we always love to catch up with you guys on Bama Insider. Tons of coverage. We dropped the Nick Saban press conference, and then we'll have some more stuff as we continue to go forward. Free promo code to sign up at Bama Insider is simply Roll Tide at checkout. There's a lot to talk about with this weekend's game with Alabama taking on Texas A&M. I think I have another graphic listed on here of other matchups taking place across the SEC. There's some good ones. I mean, especially I have that Georgia and Auburn one. I mean, what do you guys like in that game? Auburn's number 7, Georgia's number 4. Game's going to be on ESPN. It's a late game. I think these are all in Eastern time. So that actually we got 6:30 our time, Central time. And then you got South Carolina taking on Florida. Wow, Florida ranked number 3. Looked great in that opener. And then you got Missouri taking on Tennessee. Be interesting to kind of, you can't compare scores, but it'd be still interesting to see what Tennessee and Missouri do. Of course, we got this one that we're talking about, Ole Miss and Kentucky. That's an interesting one. And then you got Arkansas taking on Mike Leach and his crew, who looked great. And then you got LSU taking on Vanderbilt. So that's kind of the SEC lineup. I think we got another call coming in. We got Jarek from New York, and he wants to talk about Texas A&M and Trey Sanders. Jarek, what's up, man? Thanks for you updated your phone book, man.
Oh yeah. I was wondering. I kept calling the same old number. I'm like, what's going on here? Until you said something, I'm like, oh, okay, that was it.
No, and I got a private line too for kind of my more established callers. So I'll definitely get you that number as well after the show. You could email me at Kyle@BamaInsider.com. But you're on the line, man. Jarek
okay.
from Buffalo. You doing all right, man? It's good to hear from you.
Yeah, I'm doing all right, Kyle. Man, just can't wait for some Bama football against A&M. But I want to, talk about a little about Trey Sanders and about that offensive line. So with Trey Sanders, this is the reason why I think he was struggling. Looking back at that game, if you actually take a look at what he did at IMG, pretty much his entire career at IMG, he is more of a Le'Veon Bell running back. He waits for the offensive line to really set up the hole, and then he bursts. That's when he goes. At the collegiate level, and even at the professional level, I mean, unless you're a master at it like Le'Veon Bell, when you see that opportunity, even in the smallest gaps, you have to go. Because at the high school level, even if you're playing against some of the top teams like Mater Dei in the nation, stuff like that, those holes are not going to be as crowded. They're not going to be as tight, as they are at the collegiate level. Once those holes are open, you got a split second, and then you got to go. And if you look at what Najee Harris did as a true freshman, he struggled with that. Remember, Najee Harris was that same back as a freshman, and he learned that he has to try to master that. But for now, he has to see that hole, and he has to burst through it. Trey Sanders, the holes were there. I mean, it was small, it was tight, but for those split seconds, those holes were there, even with our backup offensive lineman there. So Trey Sanders has got to do a better job of learning how to be that same patient back at the high school level and just be better at it as far as trying to set up his blockers, but he's got to be a lot quicker as far as reading the offensive line, so that he can be that back that we all expect him to be.
Yeah, I think you bring up some great points, and I love the IMG comparison to where he could kind of be more patient in the back. But when you have a very attacking defense like Missouri, there's no time. You got to hit the hole, and you got to make plays when you see it. I think he clearly has the field vision. I think he has that elusiveness. It's his first game, so let's get more of a sample size. It's kind of my takeaway. Mm-hmm. I want to see him get like 50 carries, and then kind of like look at the bigger picture. How did he do in week 1? How did he do in week 5? And kind of go from there. I think it's a small sample size. It wasn't a good sample size from what we first saw. But when you look at the Pro Football Focus grades, you can't really grade out a player fairly until they've had like 50 snaps. So I want to see these players take a lot more snaps, see them in game situations, see them against different defenses, see them in different situations before we make an overall like, okay, this guy isn't good. This guy can't play, on to the next guy. I think we need to be patient with these guys and really make an educated observation before we're just like, this guy can't play. If he couldn't play, he wouldn't be playing next to Bryce Young, right? So these guys clearly have it. I think it's just going to take some fine tuning. A lot of this was more cosmetic. What do you need to work on? Saban just said in his press conference, you need to improve. And And the thing is about this season, you don't have a lot of time to wait to improve. You got to improve right now. I mean, I don't think people are even ready for this game coming up. I mean, this is a monster game. Number 2 versus number 13, second week in the season after hard-hitting Missouri. I mean, this is going to be a grind for Alabama taking on, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Georgia. I mean, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think a lot of people are not really taking this game that much seriously because they struggle with Vanderbilt. But Vanderbilt did a lot of great things that they failed to do last year. So Vanderbilt, remember, they're coming in with top 30, top 25 recruiting classes. So Vanderbilt has a lot more talent than some of the teams in the Big Ten do. So I was very impressed with what I saw from Mason and what I saw from from the coaching staff and what they did with A&M. I definitely think that going into this game is going to be interesting with A&M because, A&M doesn't have deep threats. They don't have any, they don't have that speed, that wide receiver, or maybe they do, but they just, they're not using it. That can take the top off of your defense. So I think Alabama's secondary is going to be a lot more comfortable because if you look at the Missouri game, it was a lot of underneath passes, a lot of short intermediate passes, a lot of those quick passes, especially out to the flats. Alabama wasn't really used to seeing, and then Missouri mixed in the wheel route, which for some reason we're still having trouble with. But with A&M, they're gonna take some shots down the field. I think Alabama's secondary is gonna be a lot more comfortable only because there isn't that vertical threat, unlike what Missouri had. Can take the top off of your defense. So Alabama, I wouldn't be shocked at all if they play a little bit more aggressive, sending a lot more blitz packages, especially because we don't have that interior pass pressure, unless Christian Barmore can be on the football field. So I think Bama's going to play a lot more aggressive in the front seven. They're going to bring the cornerbacks up. They're going to start jamming a lot, start pressing a lot more. And one thing that I hope that we can improve on is open field tackling, because that was really my biggest complaint, was just the open field tackling. It's like last year we didn't have the speed to get to the play, and then we also was not good at open field tackling. But this year around, the speed is increased. You can tell the difference from last year's defense to this year's defense with the speed, and it seems like everybody has gotten a lot faster. It's really just about those fundamentals and really wrapping up in open space, because A&M is a much better team than Missouri when it comes to escaping the defender.
Yeah, I think you bring up some great points. I mean, it's it's going to be interesting to see how this defense continues to progress. I think the offense was kind of what we expected it to be. Clearly, they didn't have that second half and kind of close the door. You bring up a great point about the wheel route. I mean, Drew Sanders got toasted on that, and Nick Saban talked about that after. I mean, the wheel route seems to be Alabama's Achilles heel. Like if I'm an offense, I'm going after the wheel route on Alabama. But I think overall, the defense showed a lot of signs that they're going to play fast. Like we talked about again and again, Christian Harris was just a man on fire. And, William Anderson, the Terminator, as coined by Sarkisian, he was clearly the Terminator, blowing up every single thing in his way. So I like the defense. I want to see a larger sample size. I think Texas A&M, they're going to have, a lot of talent. I think I might be the only one talking about Kellen Mond, but I think a lot of people kind of, sleeping on this game. I mean, Texas A&M coming to Tuscaloosa, the number 13 in the country. You better get up. I mean, this is going to be a ball game. And just as the graphic shows, I mean, 2019 Munn, 262 yards passing, 90 yards rushing. And then the year before, pretty much the same thing, 196 yards passing and 98 yards rushing. I mean, this guy is balling out. I mean, if he has another game like this, he'll be close to 1,000 all-purpose yards against Alabama's defense.
Yeah, and what A&M for the last 3 years, what they do such a good job of with Kellen Mond is that he uses his legs to set up the pass. And it's going to be the same thing with this year. There's going to be situations where he's going to be using his legs, which is going to scare the Alabama defense. It's eventually going to set up the pass because of those legs that he has. Now, what Alabama has done a good job of the last 3 years was stopping the running back. Like A&M has had some really good running backs. And one thing that I've always said, that if A&M if they ever could get their running game going, that is going to be completely dangerous, because that's going to make A&M unpredictable. Because are they going to throw in a lot more play action, rolling out to the right or to the left with Kellen Mond using his legs, or is he going to throw, or are they going to hand that ball off to Spiller, who's more than capable of getting 100 yards against anybody in the country, and that can set up the pass even more. So, that's one thing I think Alabama has done a good job of the last 3 years, is that they've done a good job of
limiting the running game for the running backs, not really allowing three things to happen at one time. But A&M, I think the offensive line is a little bit more improved. I think Whittemire, I think the tight end has kind of been a Achilles heel for Alabama's defense to have, especially last year. I think Whittemire had 2 or 3 receiving touchdowns against Alabama last year. So I think he's going to be a threat in the red zone. And I think Alabama just has to do a good job of really limiting the outside presence, not really letting the receivers take the top off your defense. But most importantly, we have got to stop Isaiah Spiller from getting going. If he gets going, it's going to set a lot of things up for A&M to have a lot of success in the defense.
Yeah, no doubt. I think you bring up some great points. Well, thank you very much, Jarek, for calling in. Please update your phone book, 205-850-0883, and we'll definitely get you patched in quicker next time. And, always appreciate what you bring to the show. I love to talk schematics with you. You always bring it on your A game, so we'll definitely catch up with you after the game.
Oh, yeah, no problem, Kyle. Have a good day, man.
All right, you too, man. Good luck to your Buffalo Bills.
All right, man.
All right, Jarek from Buffalo, and one of my favorite callers to catch up with. All right, fam. Thank you for the lone super chat tonight. It's the lone tip. We got $5. Get you some nuggets on Bomb. So thank you very much for all the calls tonight. Really had a bunch of fun. You can catch this on podcast as well. Just search Apple Podcast, Bama Insider. Tons of coverage your way at BamaInsider.com. Special thanks to Tyler Waljeb in the back end. Our producer did a great job tonight taking your phone calls. I hope you guys enjoyed the show tonight. Thank you very much. Thumbs up, and remember to subscribe to our channel for future content on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Got an action-packed week as we continue to get you ready for Alabama and Texas A&M. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I hope you guys like the Wednesday night format. We'll be coming back on Friday with Bama Insider Tailgate with Mick Gillespie, and I'm looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun. Tune in at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. right here on the YouTube channel. Of course, all the coverage back at BamaInsider.com. Have a blessed rest of your week, fam. I really appreciate you guys being a part of the show and, giving me some time tonight on Wednesday as we push into week 2 of the college football season. Be a big one with Alabama taking on Texas A&M. Be good people, and we'll catch up with you soon right here on BamaInsider.com. Good night, everyone.